Myself and many other Minecraft players agree that this game is desperately in need of a quality of life update. In the past couple months, I've seen many different ideas being thrown around on ways Mojang could improve the game without having to do too much work. And today I'm going to be talking about some of my ideas I'd like to add on to that, along with some recommendations that they could use. Let me know some of your guys' suggestions as well, because there are definitely some things that I forgot to talk about today. So yeah, make sure to write down in the comments what you think. But starting off here, I think one of the biggest opportunities that the devs missed in the most recent couple of updates, which is that they should let cartographers make maps for ancient cities. I don't see why they could not do this. I mean, we already have maps that lead us to woodland mansions and ocean monuments, and I think adding maps to ancient cities would be pretty useful as well, especially for new players. Ancient cities are not exactly easy to find, in my opinion. I had a very difficult time finding one in my world, and that could be because my world is pretty old, so they aren't really near spawn or anything. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. I would like to quickly mention that this video isn't also just about things that should be added to the game. I tried to restrain myself from thinking of stuff like that, because this is more of stuff where they could take something that we already have in the game and change it and make it better. So for example, since we already have cartography villagers, we could improve on them and make them more useful, I think. But yeah, on to the next thing that I have. They could give beacons more options. I mean, we've had beacons for a long time in the game. I think since Withers came out, right? So over 7-8 years? And in that time, beacons haven't really changed at all, now that I think about it. So I was thinking maybe they could add stuff like fire resistance or night vision to beacons. I think that'd be pretty cool, especially for working on nether projects, because I myself have worked on some pretty large projects in the nether, and a bunch of other players have as well. And having resistance from lava, I mean, it might be too much of a buff, but I think, you know, if you have a beacon in the nether, that would be pretty useful for working on projects like that. I can see why Mojang doesn't do this though, because that would just kind of make fire resistance potions obsolete. But I still think it would just improve the quality of life for players that are working on large projects in the nether, and also in the overworld as well. Moving on now, this is something that a lot of players have asked for, myself included, which is to make glass connect. So if you already know, back in the day, glass used to look horrible. There were these lines in it, and it looked bad. You couldn't really see through it. And they actually fixed it a while back when they changed the textures. They updated everything and made everything look a little bit better, including glass, but it still has those lines in it. I think there are a bunch of mods out there that make it so the glass connects, and I think they should just add that to vanilla. I think it looks a lot better, and I think a lot of people would agree that it just makes builds look a lot better overall. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. We have had mods added straight into vanilla before, for example the pistons, so I don't see why they couldn't do that today with the glass texture. So yeah, moving on to the next thing, which is to remove the too expensive option from the anvils. It's not really an option, you're kind of just forced to move on from tools. This is something a lot of people have asked for as well. If you don't already know, for some reason, if you have a tool that costs more than 40 levels to repair, it just says too expensive. And I think this is kind of dumb. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to do that. And the easiest way to fix this is to just remove the cap and just make it so that you can continue to repair tools even if it costs 50 levels or plus. Because that gives an option to players. There's a trade-off. If you want to make a new tool, you only need 30 levels or so, and you can just enchant a new tool. But if you want to keep using the same tool, it's going to cost you, which I think for sentimental players like me that like to have tools for long periods of time, I think that'd be pretty cool. Especially for people with massive XP farms, they can just pretty much repair the tools and they don't have to worry about levels. But since I don't really have a good XP farm, I would probably change my mind and just make a new tool. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on that too, because I've heard a bunch of different YouTubers talk about how they'd like to see that changed. The next thing, this is one of my personal favorites because this is like my idea, but I think they should just make it so that wandering traders have an option to be turned off in the settings. For example, like I think they can do it with phantoms, right? That might be in Java Edition, because I don't really see it on Bedrock, but I'm sure there's an option to turn off phantoms, which I think they should just do with wandering traders as well. Once you get to a point in your survival world where you have pretty much every block and you can get every resource, wandering traders become completely obsolete. You don't really need them anymore. So I think there should just be a way to turn them off. I just hate seeing the llamas like everywhere. Like they just get everywhere because they spawn so frequently. Sometimes you see the llamas in caves because they don't really despawn and they just sit there. They don't move, and I'm sure it doesn't really cause a lot of lag in the world, but yeah, it's just bad. I think they should just turn them off or just give an option, because there is some players that do need them, for example in like Superfly worlds and stuff, but that's like a super small minority of players, but also like new players for new worlds as well. But that's pretty much it with that. Moving on to the next thing is to fix scaffolding. Oh yeah, this is another thing a lot of players would like to see. So if you didn't already know, if you build, I think 6 blocks out horizontally with scaffolding, it like falls to the ground, which is very strange. I don't know why they made that nerf to scaffolding. I feel like if there's a block dedicated to helping you build, it should be useful for like large builds. Yeah, it's just one of the things that makes me scratch my head at Mojang. So if there's like a specific reason on why they did this, please let me know, because I do not know. So yeah, let's move on from scaffolding. Since we're getting towards the top of the list, this is stuff that I consider more important and stuff they should focus on thinking about when changing and like improving the next updates within Minecraft. So that includes all the parity differences. So if you didn't know, there are several differences between Java and Bedrock for some reason. I mean, they sell as the same game, so why are there differences in the games? To be fair, they are very minute. Like, for example, I think in cauldrons, in Bedrock Edition at least, you can make it so that you can dye cauldrons like a wide variety of different colors. For some reason, on Java Edition, you can't do that. Also, I believe you can bone meal sugarcane. I've heard somebody say that you can bone meal sugarcane on Bedrock, but I've never tested it out. It may be the other way around, where you can bone meal it on Java Edition, but I'm pretty sure it was Bedrock. I might have to test that out. I've never really had to try it because I have a sugarcane farm. But yeah, just these like small differences, I feel like they should just be thinking about implementing first over everything. And I know these aren't major differences, but I still think since they're being sold as the same game, they should be the same product. And I also, another thing, I am aware that they do run on different engines, so there might be reasons to why this happens. So yeah, I could be completely wrong. Alright, so the next thing I have is something that is pretty relevant to the current situation we have. So recently we had the mob vote. This is on the top of everybody's minds. People are very, let's just say they have strong opinions on what should happen and what mobs they should get. I personally did not vote. I just did not care for really any of the mobs personally. I would prefer to see the crab win, but to be honest, it could have been any mob. But this part isn't really about the mob vote in particular. I just think if they are going to do a mob vote, they should avoid adding what I call novelty mobs. And what a novelty mob is something that really does not add anything to the world other than something you can use for, like, I don't know, a couple minutes. That was kind of a broad definition. That was actually a really bad definition. But for example, a panda or a polar bear. You can, I think the only thing you can do with pandas is breed them. Is that like the only thing you can do? You can just make baby pandas. Some other examples include the polar bears, the parrots, which, now that I think about it, I don't think the parrots really do anything else. They do dance when you put like a disc in a jukebox, I think. But these are all old mobs, right? These have been in the game for years. More of the new mobs that have been added actually do kind of have a use. I think of the frog. The frog comes to mind because it does actually kill magma cubes, which is a pretty good use because then you can use it in farms. The frogs drop the frog lights, which is pretty cool. I think they should do more stuff like that, where the mob has a pretty useful and significant ability. You could include the sniffer with this as well, but to be honest, I think the sniffer is a little bit more useless because of just how little things it does. I mean, you do get the 2 flowers, but they're not very easy to use in builds. To be honest, I think they're kind of ugly. So I haven't really had much want to like go out and find sniffer eggs other than trying to get the achievement, which I have not gotten yet. And there's some more points about mobs which I'll talk about later on, but I do want to move on to my second to last point, which is to slow down the additions of overworld biomes. And the reason I say this is because I think in the last at least the last 2 updates, we've gotten the mangrove swamp and the cherry blossom grove. Is that what it's called? Or is it just the cherry grove? It doesn't really matter, but yeah. So basically, every time you add a new biome, new players, or actually every player is going to try to go out and find it. And what this leads to is players with older worlds have to pretty much resort to either using chunk base to find the biomes because they're going to be like 10,000 blocks out or plus, or they can try to go find it, which is what I did, just like without any map, just going out and flying through the world. And pretty much what that does is you load a lot of chunks, which you end up never really going back to, which makes the file size of the world increase by a lot. And every time a new update comes out, for some reason, the file size doubles or triples. Right now my world is almost 1 gigabyte in size, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I've only had it for about 3 years now. And I plan on playing on this world for much longer than that. So yeah, personally, another thing, I do like to find new biomes without the help of third-party resources. I just think it's fun. I don't think I really need to justify myself saying that. But yeah, like finding new things on your own is just a cool experience, and it is kind of a trade-off because my world ends up, you know, doubling in size every time I want to find something new. And I completely understand why players use like stuff like chunk base. Some people might consider it cheating, but I don't really care that much. Oh yeah, and one more thing, going back to just like the main point in general, I don't think they should stop adding biomes. Like I still want to see more biomes in the future, especially in the end, I think, which needs an overhaul. I think they are probably going to be doing in the next couple updates, which many players have been talking about, and guessing that's what's going to happen. So yeah, my point here is not to just take away like new biomes in general. I think they should just give it some time. You know, we don't need to rush here. This game has a lot of longevity, so in the next couple updates, I think they don't really need to focus on adding new biomes. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. My last point today is to make use of what we already have. This goes back to my third point, which is like the novelty mob thing. We could make mobs that don't really have a purpose right now into mobs that are useful. So basically in the next couple updates, they could take things that we already have in the game and just give them more purposes. I was in a group chat the other day talking with a bunch of the people on Cornerstone, and Brandy Turquoise came up with a suggestion that we already have rabbit's hide. You know, rabbits have been in the game for a very long time, and they're borderline with the most useless animals in the game. And they drop a very useless item, which is rabbit's hide, and I don't see why they couldn't just make dog armor with that. You know, we got the dog armor with the armadillos and stuff, but yeah, I don't see why they couldn't do that. It would save the devs time because they don't have to implement a new mob, and plus we can make something that we already have more useful. I think it's a win-win situation. Let me know what you guys think about that. That's pretty much it. That's all the suggestions I have for now. If you guys, once again, have any more suggestions or recommendations that Mojang could do, please let me know down in the comments, and I will try my best to respond to everyone. Also, this video is supposed to come out on Friday, but I will be busy tomorrow, so it's coming out on Thursday, so you guys get a little treat. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next week. Peace.